I'm backing up my truck, I'm gonna hook it up, loading up my boat with all my gear. I've been working hard all week, trying to make ends meet, spending time wishing I was fishing. Well, Terry Wickstrom wants to take you fishing. Gather up your gear and come along. Well, Terry Wickstrom wants to take you fishing.
This is Terry Wickstrom. Join Karen Cullum, Greg Claudio, and me as we take you to some of our favorite fishing spots from Colorado to Minnesota, the Arctic Circle to Central America and beyond, as we revisit episodes of Mountain States Fishing and Angling Adventures Television on the best of fishing with Terry Wickstrom.
Hey, we're out here today. We're on Horsetooth Reservoir. Now, we've done some other shows out here. You've seen us come after the walleyes and the bass out here. We're going to do fun fishing today. We're going after the perch, one of my favorite fish to eat. Great panfish, and a fish that is great to get kids in. In fact, I had my grandkids out not too long ago. We'll tell you more about that later. I want to show you a little bit about how to find perch, how to catch them. And perch are a fish that will cycle. Horsetooth right now, they're cycling. They're just getting to that big enough size to eat. There's common ones are about 10 inches, but there's a few tricks to catching them. Now, 3-4 weeks ago, when I was out here, the water was fairly stable, and the perch, a month ago, were back up in the brush right by the edges. Took my grandkids out and caught them on slip bobbers. The water's falling, and it's coming down out of the brush, and it's warmed up, so I expect those fish to be deeper. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna locate those fish on our electronics, and I'll show you that as we find them. And then we're gonna anchor over them. This is real simple fishing. You don't need a big fancy boat. You don't need an electric trolling motor. You just need to find them, anchor over them, and fish for them. Show you a few tips for that. Now you can see right now, if we get over to the depth finder, we're in about 36, 37 feet of water, and we're seeing a few fish there. Now I don't see anything real fishable there. So I'm gonna start moving into shore. We're gonna start to look for these fish. We're gonna look for pockets of fish to anchor over. Now, if they were in shallow in the brush, I wouldn't be able to find them in my depth finder. I'd have to fish for them. Here we're coming on to some fish. We got a few fish right here holding on this hump. Okay, here you see what we got here. Look at this. We got these fish holding off that hump in about 25 feet of water right in here. We're going to cruise this area, and I'm going to kind of find a spot to fish that looks like it's got concentrations of fish and see what depth they're concentrated at the most. Now we can still see down here about 25 feet, we got a good concentration. We're gonna try in a little shallower just to see. Okay, now here we go again. In about 15 feet of water, we've got some, what looks like some bigger fish right here. So we've got some fish activity here. Now we don't know for sure what those are. I'm gonna cruise a few more spots, see where the concentrations seem to be, and then I'll show you how we anchor up over them. I'll tell you, a good depth finder in these new color ones are just fantastic. And here we go, look at this little pocket, 23, 24 feet. Looks to me like we're finding concentrations of fish in that 20 to 25 foot range. So we're gonna anchor in that type of an area and get set up. Okay, we've got a little bit of a breeze today. So to try to anchor with one anchor or to try to control with the trolling motor might be hard to stay over these fish. Now we may have to set up a couple times and move, but I kind of know where I want the boat to be positioned. I'm close to some rocks where I found those fish, so I can tell by the rocks. If I couldn't, I would have thrown a marker buoy out. But now what I'm going to do, the wind seems to be blowing from out here, so I'm going to turn the boat out into that wind. And we're going to throw the anchor out. We're going to go out deeper than we want to be. Here's our fish again, 18 feet. Got a bunch of fish in here, 18 down to 25 feet, all through here. So we'll head right into the wind. Further out than we want to be, though. Try to get the boat to hold pretty close to that area. So now we're going to take our main anchor and we're going to drop it down. We're going to get that on bottom. And we're gonna just let that line play out for a minute. And now we're gonna back the boat up towards our spot, and we're actually gonna go in shallower than where I saw the fish. And our anchor rope will be playing out up there a little bit. Okay, we'll stop the boat as much as we can. We're gonna take a second anchor and throw it off the back of the boat, straight out from our other anchor. We're gonna tie it off to a cleat right here with a little bit of slack in it. And now what I can do, I take my cleat on the opposite side and I can pull myself tight to that other anchor rope. But you gotta have enough of an angle so your anchor grabs, and we'll pull until our other anchor rope tightens up. And we'll tie this off. And now what that'll do is that'll hold us secure right over these fish, and we'll fish them. But I've got enough line out both ways that I can let some line out of one and pull it in on the other to reposition the boat. Don't have to have a trolling motor. And I can position and try a few different depths because there's a drop off right here. So let's get rigged up and get some fishing done. There we go, right away. And it's a perch. Now, this is a little on the small side. I don't know whether we'll keep this one or not. Probably not, it's a little small. He swallowed the hook pretty good, so we'll see if we can get the hook out. Now this is basic fishing. I'll show you about these rigs here in just a minute. I've got two different rods rigged up. One I'm fishing with a jig, the other one is really basic hook, line, and sinker fishing. And that's why it's so great for the kids and stuff. Let me get the hook out of this guy. And we'll put him back and I'll show you how we rig this one. Get him back in the water. Now this is what you call basic hook, line, and sinker fishing. Probably hard for you to even see this. I have an ultralight rod. I have 6-pound fire line, or 4-pound mono I would use for this. 6-pound fire line is really good because you can feel the bite. I have one little split shot about a foot above the hook, and I have a little, just any little thin wire hook. This happens to be a little red Aberdeen hook. When I had the grandkids out, and I'll tell you about that a little later, we had just little short bait holder hooks on. And all I'm doing, I'll show you here, I'm taking, all I have are big night crawlers, and these are way too big for what we're doing. So I'm taking these. In fact, I'm gonna wash them off because they're in this dirt just so I don't get my hands and clothes all dirty. And you can see these are pretty chunky night crawlers. So I'm breaking about 1/3 of that night crawler off. And the rest, what I'll do is with that leftover piece, I'll wrap it in a wet towel so it doesn't crawl away. I don't want to put a piece back in with my live night crawler, because if it dies, it kind of gives off a gas that kills the others. Take that and I just hook it through, and I don't worry about hiding the hook or anything. You know, that's kind of a misnomer. People think you got to hide the hook. So now all I end up with on this particular rod is line, sinker, little hook with a piece of worm. What we do, we drop it down till it hits bottom. And I have a light split shot on there so I can feel the bite. When the grandkids were fishing, I had a little heavier split shot on there. And when that gets down there, we'll get some slack in our line. Okay, so now we're in bottom. I feel where it's tight. I reel it up about 6 inches. And I just kind of wait for the bite, maybe move it around, jiggle a little bit, pause it. This is what's really great about this is anybody can fish this rig. It'll catch a fish just holding still like that. It'll catch a fish moving it a little bit. Not only will it catch perch, but that piece of night crawler, you might catch a walleye or a small bass while you're doing it. And it's really a great way to take kids fishing. In fact, I want to show you some more rigging and some more tips on catching these perch. But let me show you when I was out here just a couple weeks ago, and some of the pictures of the smiles on my grandkids' faces as we were catching these perch. And we come back and I'm going to show you a little bit more about how to rig these rods. this is another better fish. Oh, my line got tangled and I broke. No, it's still there. This is a perch. It's a nice, oh, it is a nice one. All right, that's what we're looking for right there. That's what we're looking for. We can keep 20 of these. Now, I don't know if we're gonna keep 20. We're gonna keep maybe a dozen and have a fish fry at the end. These little babies, get my finger in here, show you. Now that's about a 9-incher. It's actually a little smaller than ones I was catching out here before. They may look small, but I'll tell you what, these are just awesome, awesome to eat. You flay them up, you get 2 beautiful little fillets out of them, fry them up in a pan, they're just delicious. Just delicious. When they're biting, you want to get back down there, especially, you know what, if you got 2 or 3 people in the boat, like I did when my grandkids were out here, you'll create a feeding frenzy where they'll actually get each other excited. I've had times where I left one perch on the line and let it swim around, because it's swimming around would get the other fish excited and everybody in the boat would catch fish. They're very, very competitive and they school a lot. So once you start catching them, you almost always keep catching. Now you'll catch a single one now and then, but once you locate a school, the action can get really hot and heavy. Now we're catching all the fish so far in just a hook, line, and sinker, but I want to show you some other rigs here in just a minute. This is my favorite way to fish for perch. Now if they're really going, you don't even need any bait. I happen to have a piece of night crawler on this one. Now you can try a couple different things on these. If their fish are really active, go with a bright, like a chartreuse or a bright green or yellow, because if they're active, they'll really go after it. If they're not as active, like the bite's a little in between today. We're catching them now and then. A lot of times, just a little jig like this is all you need. This is just a little curly tail grub, Berkeley Power grub, and a jig head. And if they're active, that will catch them as fast sometimes as you can get it down. If they're not biting that, sometimes I'll put a little piece of nightcrawler on, a 1/3 or a 1/2, just like that, and let it hang on there, no more than that. Another thing I might do, well, you saw me, I got my hook, line, and sinker rod. It's down on the bottom right now, so it's fishing. I could put that in a rod holder and lean it in the boat. I can fish this right below me because I have 2 rod stamps, or if the bite slows down a little bit, I can cast it out and search around the boat a little bit, see if I can locate some other fish. Every now and then, pick this up. Nothing going on, check it. Watch your rod tip. And now I can work this back to the boat. Trying to fish 2 rods sometimes gets really, you feel a bite on one, you grab the other one. There's fish down below, I can see them. I've got my trolling motor in the water just so I can have the front depth finder. I'm actually in 19 feet at the front of the boat and about 14 feet at the back. And there we go, there we go, there we go, there we go. On a jig. Not a giant, but another eater-sized perch. I tell you what, they're just so good to eat. The thing about fishing is it's not always about exotic places and giant fish. It's about having fun. You know, and so many anglers I know, especially weekend anglers that only go out a few times a year, have so many days in the water where they don't really catch fish. And panfish really are the thing to do. I mean, I have days we go to exotic places and we chase giant fish, and sometimes we're lucky. We catch trophy fish, fish of a lifetime. And sometimes right on these lakes we catch big walleyes and big bass, and we do really well. But that doesn't happen all the time for us either. And sometimes I need that day when I can just go out and put a few fish in the boat, not have to work too hard, and have some fun with it. It's just action. And if you're going to take kids out, like I took my grandkids out the last twice in the last 4 weeks, and they had the time of their life. If we'd have gone after a tough walleye bite and worked to get 2 or 3 really nice walleyes, well, that's okay for me to do that, but they wouldn't have had the patience for that. A lot of adults don't either. They want to have action. You know, here we are. You come out here after work. We didn't even come on the lake till 5:30 in the evening. We're only going to fish for a couple hours today. We cheated a little bit because I knew kind of the area I thought these fish would be in, because I just caught them a couple days ago with my grandkids, and I tell you, the smiles on their faces were just incredible. My granddaughter hooked her up. We'd been fishing. Well, let me tell you the rig we started out with. We had a little spring bobber like this, because when we were out here about 3-4 weeks ago, they were right up shallow. You couldn't find them on the depth finder. So what we do what we do, we didn't have a split shot on it. We went up maybe about this far, 2 to 3 feet, and clipped on this little clip-on bobber. Now the reason I do it without a weight is because with a weight, it's okay, it just sits down there and it's under the bobber. You'll catch fish like that. But trust me, if the fish are shallow and you're fishing under a bobber, take the weight off, use just the hook and the worm. What happens then, that worm just slowly sinks below that bobber. Just tantalizingly sinks. Then the bobber moves a little bit in the wind and the worm comes up and settles back down. It's just irresistible. And you fish that in 3, 4, 5 feet of water. So you only have 2 to 4 feet of line out. Can't cast very much more than about 3. Probably 3 is about the average. We cast it up right in the brush here. And that's how we caught him the first time. And it was bang, 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 one right after another. Well, we came back out just 3 days ago with another set of my grandkids. And we cast up shallow. We caught a small bass and I think one little perch, maybe none. And I started thinking, well, we marked some fish deeper. The water's falling. The fish probably moved out. Here's some good rules of thumb for you. Rising water pushes fish up to the shore into the brush. Falling water pulls the fish away, drives them deeper. A couple other things will come to play in that. Earlier in the year, when the bait fish are spawning and the water is rising, not only does the rising water push them up, but that's where all the life in the lake is. Later on in the year, the bait fish will hatch and move away a little bit. They may still be up shallow with rising water, but you may have to look a little deeper. But anytime that water's falling, those fish instinctively move away from the shore and move out. Now, there's no absolutes in fishing, but those are great rules of thumb. Fish under a bobber if they're shallow, and you probably won't be able to find them with your electronics. Once they pull back from shore, good electronics, there's no replacement, they're invaluable. Finding these fish, anchoring over them. Now, it's calmed down, this little breeze when we came out. If I wasn't trying to show how to do this, I would probably just take my jig and I would slowly move around with my trolling motor until I found a pot of fish, and I would use my electric motor to hold over them. But I really wanted to show you today that you don't have to do that. Oh, it's just black down there. We have a whole school of fish coming through. I got to get back down there. That's so exciting when you see them on the electronics like this. I hope we can get bit right away. Another, oh, a bluegill. Ooh, a nice bluegill. Oh, we're gonna throw that in with the perch. Those are good eating bluegills. Oh man, look at that bluegill. That is an awesome, that's a hand-sized bluegill. Man. Oh, sunfish. You know, we have been hearing that there's a good population of sunfish in Horsetooth. We haven't been catching them because we haven't been trying for them. Usually they're a little shallower than the perch. They don't school the same. But I want you to, this is, folks, that's a hand-sized bluegill. That's a nice bluegill. And you know what? That goes in the live well with the perch. We're doing good. Oh. There we go, there we go. Little one, it feels pretty little. Yeah, this one's a dink. We won't be keeping this one. I'll tell you what though, we have caught a mess of them. We didn't show them all on camera. Let me do a little tackle talk here, and then we're probably gonna call it a day. We got enough for dinner. That one's a little too small, we'll get that back. Let's go over the basic tackle again. Basically, most of our fish came on a hook, line, and sinker. That's all it is. I got a little red wire hook, could be any bait holder hook. I don't think the red hook had a bit of difference to do with it. Split shot, about a foot up above, pinched down. 6-pound Berkeley fire line. Got the split shot squeezed on there. All we're doing is lowering that down till the split shot hits bottom. Then picking it up about 6 inches to a foot so that worm is hanging right close to the bottom, just like that. And the reason we want that worm hanging up is so that we can feel the little tug in the bite. The split shot keeps our line tight so that we know as soon as there's a bite, because they're little bait stealers. The other thing we did was a little lead head jig tipped with a 2-inch Berkeley power grub. Now when the action's hot, you'll catch them on this without even using bait. My favorite fish, way to fish is a jig. When the action's going, boom, 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 you're up and down. You're not messing with bait. It's really good. The thing we did when we were out here last time that we didn't do this time, fish were shallow, little clip-on bobber. We clip that on the line. We take the split shot off, clip this up about 3 feet, cast it up by shore. So without the split shot on there and below the bobber, that worm, when it hits the water, just slowly sinks. The only weight on it is the hook up shallow. And we drift that in among the weeds. Wasn't effective today, and it wasn't effective last time we were out 3 weeks ago. That was the best way to catch them. So you come out and experiment a little bit. Basics fishing, ultralight gear, nothing expensive. You can do this if you have any kind of watercraft at all, a float tube, a canoe, a small boat, a big boat, a ski boat. You just anchor it off. You don't need any other boat control than that. Electronics are a big help. If you don't have them, just try different places till you start getting bit. If you want to have some fun, get out and fish for these panfish with just a hook, line, and sinker. If you really want to have some fun, get your kids out and let them fish for some panfish with a hook, line, and sinker. It's a great time, it's a lot of fun, and those perch are so good to eat. I'm gonna go home and fry some up, and you join us next week on Mountain States Fishing. Ooh, this one feels better. Oh, ooh, this feels like a better fish. You know what, this one doesn't feel like a perch. I wonder, remember I said when you're fishing like this, you're liable to catch, oh, it's a walleye. It's close to a keeper too. It's not gonna make it though. That's the neat thing about fishing like this on a lake like Horsetooth. You might get almost any kind of fish at any time. This is a nice, nice walleye. Ugh. Horsetooth walleye while we're perch fishing. You know, that's the great thing about basic fishing with just a hook and a bait, is that everything in the world will eat it. And, oh, 17.5, but look how fat and healthy it is. This fish is a ½ an inch away from being a keeper at Horsetooth Reservoir. Nice, nice walleye.